Hello, everyone. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J Moore Living. I'm a publicist, writer, food stylist, and frustrated baker. Today, our sponsor is Meals on Wheels. This program, Meals on Wheels, have been around for 60 years. It's Meals on Wheels of Central Maryland. They've provided nutritious meals and personal connections for so many in our community, in the good times and in the challenging ones. To apply for meals, volunteer, or make a donation, visit mealsonwheelsmd.org. Today, I'm very excited. Our guest is legendary Baltimore chef, television personality, restaurateur, cookbook author, Parkville native, John Shields. Gertrude's Chesapeake Kitchen is in the BMA. That's his restaurant, and his partner is John Gilliam. Hi, John. How are you? What's cooking?
Good, Dara. How are you doing? How's the pandemic treating you?
It's doing well. You know, you don't see the waistline, so right now I can fool everybody and just say, oh, I'm just fine. Been doing a lot of cooking, and I think like other people, doing a lot of baking. What have you been doing?
Well, it's pretty amazing. I work in a restaurant, but I think as you go along and you've been in the business for as long as I have, it becomes more administrative. So this last 3 months, I've really been in the kitchen, my home kitchen, and I've just been having a ball. I think I've had a chance to cook more these last 3 months than I have in the last 15 years. So I've just been having a great time.
And I see your waistline is hidden as well.
Absolutely. Keep it where it's below the table here. Yeah.
Right. I'm in doing this, I try to go back and find some background information that possibly I didn't know, or maybe the audience didn't know. I didn't know that you went to Peabody Conservatory and that you were a musician and that you played a piano. When did this transition from musician to chef take place?
Let's see, that probably was in about 1971, 72, quite a while ago. And yeah, I had studied briefly at Peabody, and I played piano and wrote music and played in a band. And I moved up to Cape Cod in 1972 to Provincetown, and that's where I decided to launch my music career. But I did it in the winter, and so there's not a lot of opportunity for rock stars in the winter at Cape Cod. So anyway, I was playing in a lounge at a hotel, and I needed to get a real job. And so one day, a friend of mine, and he was from Baltimore, had broken his ankle, and he called me and he said, "You have to go up to the inn." It was the Provincetown Inn, which at that time was the largest resort in New England, and he said, you gotta cook. And I thought, oh my God, I don't know how to do that. So I went up and I had a day of learning how to peel garlic and made too many pie crusts that I did badly, and it was quite the day. But I've been doing it for like about 46, 47 years now. I just fell in love. I love the camaraderie of the people. I like the excitement. I like the lifestyle. And many people who are friends of mine who started back in those days, we always talk that, we're going on half a century and we never had to get a real job.
Well, there's always a discussion about stagiaire and going to school. And I was looking back at your background. You were in P-Town for a period of time, then you went to New York, right?
Yep.
And then you packed up and you went to Berkeley.
Yeah, for nearly 20 years.
In its day, I looked at all the names of the people that came out of there that I recognize. And it was pretty amazing. You worked in a French restaurant initially,
Yes, I did. Yes. It was called a la
and
carte. And yeah, it was a small French restaurant, just about 8 to 12 tables. We changed the menu every single day. There were two entrees, two appetizers, and two desserts. And I would start at 5 in the morning, going to all the markets, the Oakland fish market. I went to the meat markets. I went to the Berkeley Bowl, which is legendary produce market in Northern California, and got to cook completely different things every single day. And what a great exercise for a kid from Parkville, huh?
well, I looked at the names. Was Jonathan Waxman, was I right? Jonathan came in. He worked with you or right after you at a la carte?
Now, actually, Jonathan was the chef when I came in,
Oh,
and
okay.
he had just gotten the job in L.A. That took him on to stardom, and so I was the kind of the de facto chef of a la carte, and it was just it was an amazing opportunity. I used to work with many of the wineries in Northern California, and they would do their releases at a la carte. So I would plan menus around that for these releases, and Frank Pryl from the New York Times would be there for those, and the sommelier from the Ritz in Paris would be there. And it's so funny because um, I was kind of learning as I was gone. So I'd have my Julia Child mastering the art of French cooking, and the Jacques Pepin books and Madeleine Common books, and I was figuring all this out as I went. And for some reason, thank God, I actually had an affinity for French cooking and was somehow able to pull it off pretty well.
Well, yeah, I'm just curious. Were you with Jonathan Waxman long enough that he was already doing the legendary roasted chicken, or wasn't that in his repertoire at that time?
No, no, that wasn't in there at that particular time.
He's known for that. I just want to go over some of the names that I looked up. Okay, so there's Chez Panisse, Alice Waters,
Yeah,
Jeremiah Towers, Alice Medricks, who was chocolates, Mark Miller, who
yeah,
did Southwest, Judy Rogers, Deborah Madison, who's
yeah,
vegetarian, Suzanne Goyne, Dan Barber from
yeah.
Stone Barn, April Broomfeld, David Lebowitz, who's in Paris now, who's pastry. And none of these, from what I can gather, went to culinary school. They were all academics that fell into cooking.
Absolutely. There was Bruce Adele was there. Um, uh,
Sausages.
yep, and then the women from Cowgirl Creamery, Sue Connolly, had Betty's Ocean View Diner, and her partner, who was the opening chef at sous chef at Chez Panisse. It's kind of funny. Nobody had a background. Nobody had gone to cooking school. Most of them were academics. We all came from these various backgrounds, but there was this commonality in love of food and excitement of ingredients and sources of ingredients. So it was a pretty unique time. I've had a chance to get together with many of the people that you spoke about. One time was down at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. We were doing a fundraiser there. This was probably 15 years ago. And we all went out and we were just kind of laughing. We were a bunch of kids. We were in what they called the Berkeley Gourmet Ghetto. And I mean, without sounding kind of pompous, we kind of changed the way America cooked. That's how the whole new style of American cooking. I mean, obviously, Alice was at the forefront, Alice Waters, and it gave America pride in food again. It gave us the sense of location. And so I'm like the luckiest guy you can imagine who just kind of wandered from one thing, ended up there, and I got to be a part of really of food revolution.
And you brought it to Baltimore. I mean,
I
you really brought farm to table, buy local. I'm forgetting, you did the French restaurant, but you did Gertie's Seafood, Gertie's Chesapeake Cafe. You opened your own restaurant,
Yeah,
and that was
yeah,
sort of precipitated your first cookbook,
it
which
did.
precipitated your first PBS show,
Yes.
which brought you into Baltimore to the BMA, where your food is aligned with the greatest art of the world. But going back, I remember, I don't know whether it was Chefs Collaborative that you did something at Gertrude's and you invited the chefs. It was Spike Jurdy, and I
Yep.
came in with Riccardo Bossio from Soda Sopra.
Yeah.
And of course, Italians have always been farm to table. But do you remember, was it Chefs Collaborative? Do you remember back? I mean, it might have been 2006, 2007.
Yeah, I believe it was the Chefs Collaborative. We were obviously, like we do for everything, we were doing a benefit. It was for a benefit that we all came together.
I think this was more like a meeting, just the chefs. There was no charity event.
Oh, exactly. Yes. No, I do remember that. That was the Chefs Collaborative because one of the things about chefs, we're usually busy. And we have very little time to get together and go over things and kick ideas around. So that was an opportunity for us all to come together and talk and share some information, share some hope, get some excitement going. Yeah, it was good. It was a really nice get together.
I remember it, and it might have been the first time I met you. And then, of course, our paths have crossed over the years at different events. And we had a really nice luncheon one day. I think it was after you had me in after Tom had passed, and we had a very nice luncheon. It was lovely of you. Um, so let's see. We have the two PBS shows, which was Chesapeake Bay Cooking, another Coastal Cooking.
Yeah.
You, to this day, continue to go to the 32nd Street Farmers Market on Saturdays to buy. You put Joe Norman of One Straw Farm and Charlottesville Goat Cheese. You've supported local, you're there. I mean, is there a Saturday that you just don't go to the market?
Well, it has. The only reason I'm not at the market is if I'm out of town or the weather is so bad the market doesn't open. But even when the weather is bad and the market's open, I'm there because I figure if the farmers can get there, I can get there because they do so much. They're the heroes. They really are the heroes. And so I like to be there not only to support them, but after all these years, I know so many people. They're like my family. They're my friends. I know their kids. And I think that's what these connections around food are about. It makes a complete difference when you bring that product back. When I get everything, my load of stuff from Black Rock Orchard, and we're making desserts and we're making sauces with peaches, and I know where this stuff comes from. I know the work that went into it, and so you can't, dismiss it. It really makes you mindful of the
And,
food
and
and
you honor
mindful
it.
of your cooking. And you do. It's a
You,
completely different thing.
right. It's not nothing against the servers like Cisco that just bring stuff in. This, the roots, how much care and what went into it. I want to go over the books, but people
Okay.
will be able to find this on your website, which is gertrudesbaltimore.com. But let's go down the books. The Chesapeake Bay
Okay.
Cookbook, 1990. The Chesapeake Bay Crab Cookbook, 1992. Chesapeake Bay Cooking with John Shields, 1998. Chesapeake Bay Cooking with John Shields 25th Anniversary Edition. And that was just 4 years ago, 2015. The New
Yeah.
Chesapeake Kitchen, Johns Hopkins Press, 2018. Gertrude's celebrated 20 years of being open 2 years ago, so you're 22 years
Yep.
old.
Yep.
Uh, So we were talking a little bit earlier about what's going on at Gertrude's during COVID and what you're planning to do. Every time I talk to you, even during this, you've been really, really busy. So what can people expect? They can get curbside. What else is going on at Gertrude's?
Well, right now we're not doing anything. We have no curbside. We have
Oh,
nothing.
okay.
I was trying to respect the museum. Obviously, we're in a building that contains priceless works of art, and so during the pandemic, initially, the museum wanted to be completely closed down, and so we shut down, and we've gone into hibernation mode. All of our gang have gone on unemployment, and we keep in touch all the time. Everybody seems to be doing well, but it looks like we're starting to get things in motion, and that's what I've been working on for the last months. I'm on a million Zoom meetings with restaurant associations, with all kinds of different food collaboratives to hear what's going on, how we're going to proceed, getting ideas. And so we're hoping that next month in July, we will be reopening. Just I guess yesterday, Governor Hogan announced phase two, but each municipality can make decisions when they want certain aspects of that to come into place. So theoretically, indoor dining at a reduced capacity, we still don't know. It could be 25% to start, or it could be 50%. So we're making plans to do that. We're set up our patio already, so that's at 50%, and there's plenty of social distancing. And so anyway, we're coordinating now with the museum about that so that they have all their ducks in a row with the lobby, with restrooms, the whole thing. But it's, I can start to feel the excitement. It feels like we're getting ready to gear back up. But we're going into uncharted waters right now because we'll be doing less than half of capacity of what we were able to do before. So you could have a nervous breakdown about that. Or, as I've heard from many different restaurateurs and restaurant associations, think of this as you're starting a new business. Think of this as a new beginning. It's not the same business that you had before. So, Dara, I'm actually thinking back to Gertie's in Berkeley. And so I'm doing sort of Gertie's Chesapeake Cafe as a reopening, a smaller version of ourselves with just a lot of the best that the Chesapeake has to offer, a lot of the Eastern Shore favorites, and making it more of a cafe, a little bit more casual as we navigate our way through this whole era that we're going through.
It was very interesting saying you're looking to look at it like you're starting a new business, losing my voice.
Yes.
But I hopefully you'll bring back the teas.
Oh yeah, we'll get there for sure. We'll get there.
Let me take a sip here. Let's see, we were talking, you've been doing a lot with the Cookwise kids. And
Yes.
So why don't you tell people about the Cookwise kids?
Well, the Cookwise kids had a program was called Days of Taste, and Riva Khan has been at the forefront of that for so many years. And it's one of the joys of my year. We go into public schools, usually in the city. We work primarily with third graders. And the idea is that we go and talk about and teach about taste. Where tastes come from in your mouth. What are the tastes? What are the sensations? And then we start to talk about, well, where does the food come from? One of the illustrations is a pizza, and we take all the ingredients of a pizza and see how many miles it takes just to make a pizza. Then they actually take, the children get to go out to a farm, often Joan Norman's farm, One Straw Farm, and spend the day out there. And on our third session, we actually get them to be chefs, days of taste-wise kids chefs. And it's not high-end hot cooking. We get them to make their own signature salad dressings and their own salads, and we put all kinds of different things in. And they get so excited about it. And I've gotten such great feedback from the kids who have written letters and said how much fun it was and how they took what they learned home and got it to happen in their own household. And they were actually making the salads and they were making the dressings. So it's a unique opportunity to be able to get out there and visit with children and get them excited. They get me excited, and we all go wild. But it's a marvelous program.
It is, and I was on the board for AIWF, American Institute of Wine and Food, when we started Days of Taste, and Reva started it. So I'm glad to see that it's transitioned and continues to grow. I want to remind people that they can find out about your cookbooks at gertrudes@baltimore.com. If you buy a cookbook, if you buy a gift card, 100% of the sales will be donated to support your staff during the COVID. And I want people to understand that. And that will be transitioning up on for the show. I do have a couple questions. Jeff Spear says, what's the best dish you've prepared at home?
Well, I have to say, I love soups and I love stews. So I went over to Liberty Delight Farms and I got it was really like a lamb steak, like just about this. It was about a pound, had a nice bone in it. And I made an Irish stew that I was so happy with. You know, it had layers of potatoes and onions and carrots and parsnips. And then I would layer the lamb in there as well, you know, with tons of sprigs of rosemary. And I just let it percolate for hours. And the potatoes actually thicken the whole thing. I mean, it's, you know, it's just kind of thickens a bit. And you make a little bit of brown bread and a salad. And my God, life is good.
Didn't you do a video on that?
I did actually. Because I was excited about it. I thought I'm going to show everybody how to make my favorite Irish stew.
And that's on your Facebook page, Gertrude's page.
I think it is. I believe it is.
Or John Shields' page, but it's there. I saw it. Jeffrey, who's a good friend of mine and tunes in every week, is asking. He's seeing a theme as to Gertie Cafe and Gertrude's. He would like to know what the theme is about. I know, but why don't you tell everybody who Gertrude or Gertie is?
Okay, Gertrude was my grandmother, Gertrude Cleary. We called her Gertie. She lived right down the street from the museum near 25th and Greenmount. I grew up there with her. She cooked in a church hall, St. Anne's Church, and that's where I started cooking with her. So when I was in California and it was time to open my own restaurant, I didn't know what to do. And I thought, I'm going to do the food that I grew up with and the food that I loved. And I'm going to name it after my grandmother, who's the one that gave me that joy of cooking. So it became Gertie's Chesapeake Bay Cafe. When I came back here and I was going to open a place here, I didn't know what to call it. And Dan Rodricks, who you just had on as a guest, I told him my dilemma, and he said, don't worry about it. I got it covered. So he did an op-ed piece right after that and said, John had a wonderful cafe in Berkeley for many years called Gertie's. And he said, but now he's gone big time. He's going to be at the museum. So maybe it should be a little bit higher class. So we're going to call it Gertrude's. And it can be a tribute not only to his grandmother, Gertrude Cleary, but to Gertrude Stein, who was instrumental in making the cone collection here at the BMA come to life. So I like to think of it as a tribute to the Gertrudes of Baltimore.
Yeah, that's great. I have my question for you that I usually ask. We're all cooks. I've had many successes, and I've talked about my failures. Was there an epic failure for you in the kitchen?
Well, I guess my biggest epic failure was the first day I cooked. and I had made peeled all this garlic, and I had never seen garlic before. And so I had cuts on all four of my fingers, and they put Band-Aids on them. And then they asked me to make pie shells, and they asked me to make, like, I think it was 36 or 48 pie shells. And I didn't know how to multiply that many times on the Crisco thing. So it took me the whole day to do the thing. And I called the chef. His name was Raymond at the Provincetown Inn. And I said, Raymond, I did it, and put my hands out like this, and all 8 Band-Aids were gone. So I guess that was my epic failure, and that was my first day cooking, but I kept at it for like 47 years now.
Well, the moment you showed the hands, I knew what was happening about the Band-Aids. Yeah, that's why the rubber gloves were handy. Band-Aid, then the rubber glove. It's hard to lose a rubber glove.
Exactly.
So if the farmers market have come to life, people are going out, they're doing social distancing. What's hot at the farmers market now? What should they be looking for?
Well, if you have a home garden, there's a lot of small plants already. If you want to start your tomatoes, your squash, your herbs, everything, tons of that. Lot of beautiful greens, leafy greens and arugula and mesclun greens, just tons of that. Over at Black Rock Orchard, I'm finding the apples are kind of going away. They're sort of dwindling. And Dave has some beautiful blueberries. Oh my God, I've been eating them every morning with my cereal and baking some little tartlets with them. And he even has some early peaches coming in, which is pretty phenomenal. Captain Don, who is our fishmonger over at the market, he's been really busy with like huge lines, and he does a lot of his own fishing. And then the biggest line, the absolute biggest line, takes up the whole middle of the market, has been for the strawberries and for the asparagus. Massive lines for that. So I've been getting a lot of the I've been getting asparagus and some of the goat cheese at Charlottetown Farm, and a number of other little things I find there. And I go to Andy's Eggs over there, and I've been making a lot of frittatas. They're easy to make. You can eat them hot, cold, room temperature. Make a salad on the side. You have a complete meal. So there's a lot of exciting things at the market right now.
Everything is blossoming. It is the season. And as I'm going to wrap up, and I always sort of ask this, I'm trying to remember to ask this question. What can I say? A child of the 60s, a lot of bad sectors. What haven't I asked you that I should have asked you?
I guess you could have asked me, given everything you know in this business and given the chance, would you have done this? Given the chance, would you have done this again?
Yeah, that falls in line. I have a quote that I loved of yours. And people, I'm going to look down because I can't remember it. It says, I love good food. I love making good food that makes people happy. Being a chef can be a taxing business, but it's exciting. In the kitchen, you're nervous and you're rushing, and then all the people come in and everyone is smiling. That's what food does. It brings us all together around our common table in joyful community. We sure look forward to those times sooner now than later.
Yeah.
John, I want to thank you for joining us, and I know, as always, we could go on talking and talking, but everybody, John Shields, Gertrude's Chesapeake Kitchen at the BMA. You can find him at gertrudesbaltimore.com. Buy a book, get a gift card. It helps support his staff. And you can find him every Saturday morning at the 32nd Street Farmers Market. And if you stop him, I'm sure he'll autograph your book. So John,
7
thank you.
a.m.
So 7 a.m. Up bright and early, everyone. There's
Uh-huh.
no laying around. No laying around. John, thank you. Mwaz.
Dara, thank you so much. Love you.
Love you too. All right, everyone. This program is brought to you by Meals on Wheels. For 60 years, Meals on Wheels of Central Maryland has provided nutritious meals and personal connections for so many of us in the good times and in the challenging ones. To apply for meals, volunteer, or make a donation, go to mealsonwheelsmd.org. I want to remind people that next week we have the Barbecue King, as I call him, Stephen Reichland, will be here at 12:30. I think he has 5 PBS shows, probably around 35 cookbooks, some translated into French. So do tune in next week. I want to thank you again for sharing our show with your friends. And join me if you have any questions for Stephen at food@jmoreliving.com. You can find me on social media at Dara Cooks. This will be up at J More Living's Facebook page and J More Living's webpage. May your plates always, always remain full. Until next week, thank you.